Okay, 5:45 p.m. on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Mark Robinson, acting chair of the Katua Water Commission, will open the meeting. In attendance, we have myself and Commissioner Turbuck. Commissioner Horsley is under the weather, drinking chicken soup, trying valiantly to make an effort, but was not to be. So we'll be majority of two here tonight. We have a quorum, and we also have with us the water superintendent and the office manager with us, and see some public. So I would ask if there's any public comment to open the meeting. We'll also entertain public comment during some of the agenda items. So, Fran Parks.
Get your check.
No.
Okay.
So I explained this to Tom Hawkins' dad. I think I explained it to Mark, but I asked Ray to break down the expenses of the water department, which also includes all of the benefits, insurances, and all of that. So you'll see up until the rates were changed in 2020. The water department was running yearly a deficit, and that was made up by taxpayers, and that was one of the reasons that the rates were changed. So, you know, along the revenue is from water rates, meter fees, the antennas, solar credits, penalties and interest, water liens, and other water department fees. The expenditures that come out of the water department revenues are salaries, operating, stabilization, employee benefits remaining allocated on salaries, debt service, insurance, the trucks, and all the other insurances, the building, and I assume there's insurance on the pumping stations. The administrative expense, and that's for the treasurer's office to supply the work that they do, and the you know, Freedom Hall and streetlights. So so this year they don't have the employee benefits for this year completed yet. So I just used the 110,978 from last year. So when you look at that, without anything else, you know, that needs to be paid, you know, the leftover from the water rates is $83,075. So I thought you needed to know that.
Thank you.
Ray expects that next year, possible that you might have a deficit. Seems, you know, only 76 million gallons were pumped from July through September versus 101 last year. So that's down 18% from 22, which was the only loss in the last 3 years.
So this is good information to have. We'll discuss in relation to our affordable access to drinking water policy when we get to that point in the agenda. Okay. Any other public comment at this point? Okay, hearing none. Like a motion to approve the minutes of September 19th, 2023.
I would like to move to we approve the minutes on September 19th, 2023.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. And Chris, would you like to give us a water quality report?
Sure. Total cold form for the month were all negative. We did receive, results of a chlorine testing, and those were all non-detect. We did our IOCs also, or inorganic compounds. And they actually, I think, that's also sodium's on there, and the sodium actually was just a little bit lower than before, but we didn't put that into the, chart yet, because we did all the stations we would to get the results from the others, and they haven't given us those yet. And there's always been barium in the water for some reason, and it's natural, I guess, from whatever it is. And it was actually lower than it's been in the past also, so,
You're talking about barium,
yeah.
Barium, barium, it's hard to hear in here. Barium, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just radioactive.
Yeah,
Okay.
what would be a possible source of that? Just,
I'm not
is
sure,
it
you know, I
like
tried
radon,
looking
it's
up.
naturally occurring? or-
Yeah, something, yeah, that's what they were saying, from naturally occurring stuff, you know, because I tried looking it up, this. I have to get somebody that knows a little more, maybe when I have, Tom over, I could bend his ear a little bit, because there's a couple of things that I've seen in the water, and I go, why would that even be there? I have no idea. You know, and that's one of the things I was gonna say here is, we also did our secondary contaminants. And, manganese actually went down a tiny bit, which is okay. Station 4 is the only one that had any iron in it. But for some reason, I've never seen this before, our potassium was up. And usually we get like a 1 point something milligram. It was as high as like 7.5 milligrams, which isn't bad for you. Everybody needs potassium, I guess, and everything, but I just don't know where it's coming from. And I looked it up with my little tiny computer. And, you know, they said it could be from septic systems. But it can also be related with the sodium. It's kind of like sodium soluble like that. So I got to thinking, maybe with all the rain that we've had this year, that is something that might be making it, you know, come out a little more and everything. So I'll keep an eye on it in the future. Secondaries isn't something we have to do usually every year, but we do it anyways, just to make sure we know what's in the ground water. That's water quality. Keep you up to date.
Any questions about the water quality report? Commissioner? Okay. And
It'll be next.
superintendent report?
Sure. In September, superintendent's report read October 25th, 2023. In September of 2022, we pumped 23,471,000 gallons of water. In September of 2023, we pumped 18,521,000. Or a decrease of 4,950,000 gallons of water. I think there's still a lot of irrigation systems. I think people are switching over more, because we actually had almost, it was like 3 inches of rain in 22 and almost 5 inches in 23. So it was even wetter than it was the year before. So I think between everything, it's starting to help a little bit. Not much to talk about in association news. A lot of classes being offered. It's a recertification year this year where everybody's trying to re-up their license, and you're gonna have so many points and so many CEUs and everything. So everybody's throwing classes all over the place. We had 3 new services go up in town, 2 over on Main Street at the end, and 1 over on Brittany, over on down the end. We didn't have any leaks. Little news on Lewis Pond. I'll let you in a little bit of this last month. We're switching engineering firms. I've canceled the contract with the one I had, and we're picking up a new engineering firm to do it. Same people, different engineering firm are doing the work.
They split off?
Yeah. And West Street Change was cleaned. It was down for about 4 days, 4 to 5 days. We had no incidents. Nobody even reported any dirty water or anything like that. It went really well.
Right.
So, yeah. And with the PFAS litigation, I don't have any information for you, but I do have a meeting on Friday, a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting to talk to, the attorneys. And they're gonna tell us what's expected. You can back out down the future right now between, they've settled with 3M and DuPont. And they're gonna talk to us a little more on what to expect from that or what to not expect from that. And they have all the rest, you can opt out of some of it if you want. And they don't suggest we opt out of anything, but you have that option, they say.
So opting out is meaning you're gonna go it alone and try
Yeah,
to sue the big companies yourselves, the Katuitt Water
correct.
Department getting in there and 3M,
Yeah,
good luck.
Davy and Goliath.
Uh, So I recommend we stay in the suit. You agree?
Yes, I do. And there hasn't been any cash disbursements.
not yet. No, they could talk a little bit more about that.
It sounds like it's gone remarkably fast though, for these kind of.
It has gone pretty fast, and because I mean, I know the MTV suit that we were in lasted years.
Yeah,
And this just looks like a couple people, some people had claimed bankruptcy right away. Nope, we're done, you know, when it came out, so I got a couple things on that too. But other than that, that's what I have.
I did look back. I have data at my fingertips back to 1973,
Wow.
and it is the highest year
Last month,
So
in the
July
last
of
50 years.
July of 2020, which was the COVID year, and which was also a drought year. Is that correct? July of 2020 was the most volume pumped by the Katuitt Water Department in its.
In 50
in at least
years.
50 years.
Yeah.
46.5 million.
Yeah.
So it's good that things have come down since then. Any questions for the superintendent? And are we going to know anything more about progress with the consultant Camberari's?
I could just tell you that I did get a price from him for how much it would cost for the sampling of those two wells that we put in. And it's around $1,600 to have them tested for all the normal stuff. So that's just the testing. I know that the contract we signed with him said something about testing in it, but it didn't say anything about paying for the testing in it. I don't think so. I think that, you know, it's part of the contract that we get the testing done, so it's gonna cost a little bit. I think $1,600 to do it. I just wanted to talk to you guys before.
That would come out of your engineering budget?
It can, you know, it can come out of both. You know, we still have a little bit of money left in.
Is that the lab fee or?
That's the lab
cost
fee.
To test? That's the lab fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha, analysis. Yeah. That's what Tom did get those prices and sent them to me back, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to him about it and everything.
By the way, with your new services, do we send them a letter about the irrigation policy?
We give them the policy with the application.
Good.
Yeah, it's in with the application, so they know they can't hook up.
I imagine those two big houses will
A and B.
use a lot of.
Those are A and B. I believe I talked to the guy and I told him about it anyways, when we were there with the foreman, and I said, just to let you know, you will be throwing salt water on this. I said, because it won't be our water. Yeah.
Those are the two at the end of Main Street. That roll around, the two.
Dr. Federico?
Henderson's.
Yeah.
That's Henderson. So, okay, any public comment on the water superintendent's report? Okay, we'll get into some old business, source water protection, test wells, enabling legislation. This was Commissioner Horsley's report. So we'll wait until next month about that. The affordable access to drinking water, that's something that I've been following here. We did put some information into the Katuitt Currents of the Civic Association. I just got 2 copies in my mailbox today, so didn't really give people a heads up to come tonight, I guess, but I mean, what can you do? So this is something that we've been working on for the last year or so, and I just want to say that I think I consider we brought it to a point where you know, it can be publicly vetted, and I'm happy to have discussion about it. Fran Parks has given us some information about the revenues and expenses of the water department. And I guess, you know, my response would be that this is intended to be a revenue neutral policy. So the money that is lost, about $90,000+ by cutting in half the initial tier from $80 a year to $40 a year. We expect to be made up by increasing significantly the top tiers, which tends to be more of the irrigation water. So, and if we, you know, if we see a deficit in the coming years because it's not revenue neutral, then we can always adjust the water rates again. But I think that this is something that is important for people to understand, that water should not be free. I learned my lesson, but I do think it should be more affordable, particularly for those who don't use very much of it. And it's really just a question of you know, everybody's entitled to a certain amount of water, I think. And this policy is intended to get at that in a way that does not cost the district money. If it does cost the district money, well, I can see here millions of dollars that the water department was shortfalling for many, many years. We've more than made up for that. And I don't think it's just going to have a major effect on the operating or capital deficits.
So as I understand it, the impact for all accounts that use under $100,000 gallons per year
Will not change.
will not change.
Except for everybody getting a $40 discount.
Above that, they go 15%. Got it. And there's no scale for that where it goes higher.
No, we did that previously. We had it more accelerated or graduated at the top end before, and this is just a straight 15%.
Got it.
So the graduated effect was imposed in FY20. That's why you see the amazing revenues that started coming in 2021. And so, you know, this past fiscal year, after a couple of years of the irrigation policy being in place and the higher rates for the more use, we still brought in 1.4 million more than we ever had before. $1 million more than we did 10 years ago. So the department is paying its way, and I think will continue to do so even with this policy. Is there any public comment about this? Okay, we'll continue to keep it open until this doesn't have to be voted on until the spring in order for it to become policy for next fiscal year, which is what I envision it taking effect. We don't want to interrupt the billing procedures in the middle of a fiscal year. Anything else on that? The leak adjustment policy. I know Scott wanted to think about that some more. I guess my question on that though is, should we be thinking about, or maybe we have, it's eluding me, having a separate leak adjustment when we know that it's the irrigation system that's been leaking as opposed to somebody's toilet running for 3 weeks. I think we should, and I'm not sure what the calculation should be, but we typically, the existing policy is taking the largest 6-month period over the past, how many years?
As much as we have history on
Okay,
for
so
that
we have a
account.
long running history. And doubling that highest 6-month period. And then subtracting the average.
No, so the homeowner,
Just-
or the
just
property owner is
something.
responsible for double the highest usage. And then anything over double the highest usage is what's eligible for the leak
Okay,
adjustment
got it.
reduced rate,
I can read it and follow it. I can't do it.
right?
Can't do it verbally. So my question is, why not triple it if it's an irrigation leak? I don't know, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's a more sophisticated way to get at it, but just the point is that we shouldn't be absolving people, for irrigation leaks as we should for domestic use. That's the point I'm trying to make. Right. Yes, it's piling on the irrigators, absolutely. If I see a broken irrigation head in January again, like I did before I joined this commission, and I didn't drop a dime because I didn't know that that was something that was important. Now I do. Seeing it spurred out, freezes, it lands on the ground in January because of the broken sprinkler head. I don't think I, as a ratepayer, should be subsidizing that. Because somebody's in Florida and didn't turn their irrigation system off, or whatever you do to it in the winter. They don't drain them, Chris, do they? What do they do?
They
They blow them out? Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, that's just one way to think about this. I don't think we want to apply it for anybody who's in the queue now. I don't think that's fair,
Right.
but I think going forward, it should be thought of as
Yeah, Scott, I think Scott did put in.
we should put it in.
Close to that,
So
yeah.
the language in yellow there is what he was proposing as an adjustment to the policy. That's okay. It should be at the end of your, or maybe at the beginning. I'm sorry, the beginning of your affordable access. to drinking
Where your affordable starts, it's a page of process,
Okay.
double sided.
I got it.
Double-sided copies
Got it.
from
Hey,
Mr.
double-sided.
Robinson.
Yeah.
Relief will not be provided in cases where the leak is associated with the irrigation system. Particularly if it wasn't monitored, maintained, discretion of the commissioners, approve inspection. So, that's a little more draconian than what I propose. And I think Scott should be here to defend that or explain it further, but, I think we're both in agreement that there should be a distinction made. I think that's the point. What do you think? Yeah, thought about it.
No, I have, I just. How often is it how many times in the past have the commissioners given relief to an irrigation leak? How often is it at?
Do we always know?
We usually know.
We do,
Yeah.
because you have to show that it's been fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For any kind of relief to happen, so if it was indoor plumbing, it would have to be by a plumber, if it was an outside irrigation. And it's always to your discretion. And that's what it's always said, you know, it's up to you guys, whether you wanna do it or not, I mean, if you guys feel.
It's always up to
Somebody
our
was-
discretion, but we always set precedent as well. I
Right.
mean, to be fair to everybody. It's, I think the formula that we have for regular leaks, I think it's pretty generous, frankly, you know? So, well, let's wait until Scott is here. But it should be discussed. Is there any public comment on this idea of adjusting the adjustment policy for leaks?
And I think the leak adjustment policy, you know, that has been in effect for, I don't even know what the start date of that was probably before there was a lot of irrigation systems, and it was, and I think the intent of it was that, you know, you have a pipe go in the house, your normal usage is 20,000 gallons, you've now used 100. We're gonna make you pay for the first 40, and we know that it wasn't necessarily a lack of responsibility.
All I know is that my parents' house at 689 Main, the one next door, the Nielsen's, now the 671 condos, but that house in 1985, the caretaker came in May and turned on the water. I don't know if you remember this. And the Nielsen's didn't come up from Maryland until late June. And the pipe had burst in the upstairs bathroom, and they've been running 5-6 weeks, all through cascading down through the horsehair plaster and everything. They didn't live in that house ever again. until it was sold for this thing that they built.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
fortunately, the guy did rehab the house. I guess there was a fight with insurance. I don't know what it was, but nobody lived in that house after that leak.
And nobody checked on it after turning it on.
Oh, it's May. Why would you expect it to freeze? You know? Didn't freeze, it just opened up, having been frozen, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
But in my 4 months, I've only seen, requests on burst pipes for frozen interior pipes. I haven't seen anything on the irrigation.
Well, you may see them in January because that's when we'll issue the
May
bills
1st.
for the July to December period, which is when the irrigation systems are normally on.
Yeah.
and I felt bad as a neighbor. I didn't hear the water running. It just went, I don't know. Okay, so, we'll talk some more with Scott about that. And, oh, good, Commissioner Turbuck, our email situation.
Email situation. Did you know our town councilors all use private emails? So I did a little research. Right now, the district clerk, the fire commissioners each use katuittfire.org. Treasurer uses katuittfiredistrict.org. The Prudential Committee uses katuittfiredistrict.org. Chris and Jen use katuittwater.org. And we use our private email addresses.
Well, and actually, I use my business email.
Well-
Which might be worse.
So
Because that's the one I look at for.
Yeah.
So I spoke to the Secretary of State's office, and there is no law or no compulsion that elected officials use official emails. That happens in the judiciary. Judges can't use their personal email, but we're allowed to do what essentially we want. West Barnstable Water Department uses private emails. COM uses private emails, but they don't publish them. All requests go through the Prudential Committee to Chester Crocker, and he forwards them. So my recommendation is we save the taxpayers of the district the additional expense, and we stay the course with what we got until the fire district at large decides whether it wants to normalize everyone on Katuitt Fire District.
I did ask, Mark Pedro a little bit on it, and he says, I'm gonna tell you, he says not to use your private, he says to keep everything one and clean onto one thing, just because if you were ever to get audited, it's all on one, you don't have to give them every email address you have.
Right.
So it
So
has,
like-
right,
Board of Water Commissioners at gmail.com or something, if you had. one
Couldn't it
that's-
just be Katuitt Water?
Well, it's fairly expensive. Our
I think
admin cost is what, 75 per user?
$15 a piece or something like that, yeah.
$15 a piece.
Oh,
It would be $15 a piece, so it'd be
So 45.
45 to throw you guys on there.
So, what are you saying, like a
A month.
Gmail account?
Is it a month?
Yeah, well, those are free, or we could take official addresses and alias them into private ones.
You just went over my head.
The rules of discovery, if there's an open meeting law, complaint, and, actually, you're allowed to go in and pick the pertinent emails. They can't grab your whole inbox and go through it. But you're supposed to turn over everything that is relevant to commission business. That's what the law states.
Well, I don't really have an opinion on this. I don't think we should spend $500 just to change email addresses, but
No.
if we could have free email addresses that were consistent among us, it might look better. Or, I can tell you, I have a company account and a personal account. And I look at the personal account once a week. I think I would look at Katuitt Water once a month.
Yeah. Yeah, and like with us, I think if they go online. With us, it says katuittfiredistrict.org or something like that, doesn't it? If someone was to send it. Well, I thought it went to one place, then it goes to us. I think you can get it where it would go to us, then we could send it to you if we had to, or something like that.
Yeah,
But-
that's what Com's doing.
Yeah,
Right.
trying to think exactly how it went, because I've got them before, just out of the blue. But I think it's from people being online paying bills or something like that.
So you have to be on KatuittWater.org because of the status system, that entire, the security involved with the water department's IT infrastructure is very, very high. That's why we pay what we pay for.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have to have the email because of that, but we do have to keep an IP address for that, yeah.
I mean, ours are KatuittWater.org because we have Outlook and network and all of that rolled into it.
Got it. Yeah, now then that's gonna be changing from a data workshop to Teams.
SharePoint.
SharePoint, yeah. That's gonna be changing on us.
Yeah.
So I don't know at that point, if it's cheaper, we might look into it then.
And with SharePoint, you won't have a data login anymore. I'll just send you a link that's good for 7 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll actually be saving a little bit on the monthly.
I thought data was used district-wide, just us.
By the way,
Just
congratulations,
for the
you're
water.
pretty fast today.
On the warrant.
Well, if I'm right there,
It was one day, I think it took you 1 minute. You cut it. It was a good, that's good.
I don't want the text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my recommendation. Don't change anything, save the money.
status quo ante, that's good.
And I will say, we had a request for information that included emails about a certain account, and we just turned over the emails that were pertinent to it through the clerk.
Yeah.
Good, well, thank you for doing that. Dave. Chris, you want to talk about the edits for the?
I would love to, but I gave it to Attorney Pierce, Mike Pierce out of Hyannis or Barnstable maybe now. He might have moved his office over to Barnstable. He was suggested from Mark Woodrow, he's a contract just kind of lawyer, he reviewed it before for us. He didn't get back to me. He was supposed to get back to me this beginning of this week and he hasn't. So I haven't heard from him on the questions that we had, and I'll give you that as soon as I can.
Okay. So are we talking about doing some red lines to the handbook that can be redistributed or just additions or what are we?
Yeah, there's a couple additions there. We were changing a couple things.
We don't have to get into it, we're not gonna.
Yeah, no, there was a short list on it.
There's
And I
no
was asked-
deadline for this, it's just something that we need to do at some point.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll assume that in the next month he'll have done his work.
Yes.
Any new business? I don't have any new business. Do you have any new business? I do not. Does anybody, before we transition to, it's not really on here, but it's continuing old new business, which is anything new about the school that we need to report? I know somebody mentioned about the tank.
Yeah, I sent that forward. Mark Lynch sent me that just so we had it, so I just
So
forwarded it to
explain,
you guys.
explain what's going on here.
Yes, the fuel tank has been removed over there. There was no leaks on it.
Underground fuel.
The underground fuel tank, correct. So everything was clean coming out. There were some pictures there taken and actually pretty good. I was surprised. But yeah, they got rid of that and they pumped out what was left in it and took it off to wherever they had to go and everything went quite smooth.
Is that steel or fiberglass tank?
I think it was steel, a double line, something, yeah.
And did the town pay for that or?
Yes, as far as I know, the town paid for that. Yeah, that was part of the original agreement, yeah.
Okay,
I'll give you the rest of the school update.
Sure.
go ahead.
Mark Boudreau ended up doing the deed at the request of the town.
Yep.
So, it's gone to the legal department at the town.
Oh,
There
great.
it sits.
That's it.
Great.
Yeah.
You know how long it takes to review a deed? About 10 minutes at the most.
Yeah, right, yeah.
They're still reviewing our, to drive some stuff down by the little river.
It'll be a little while.
Yeah, so I have another email into Mark to maybe light a fire over there.
Yeah.
Because They looked at it, the only question they had, they wanted to make sure everybody could still drive all the way through and go from Maine to Old Oyster. And, and nobody even thought about blocking that off.
Right.
I don't think that needs to be.
The only time it's been blocked is when the school was in operation.
Right.
Right, that, yeah.
So,
Never dared do that. I never dared do that.
Drive through.
Yeah.
Well, it's, there's a lot of blind corners there.
Right.
It's not a safe way to go through.
No.
No,
especially if you don't want to drive through that big road.
Yeah,
right.
thank you, Fran.
Thanks, Fran.
And is there any new business, to come before the commission? Is there any matters that we haven't thought of to come before that I haven't thought of as the chair? Is there any additional public comment? This may be a record for the shortest water commission. See what happens if you don't have professors here spouting off. You hear that, Scott?
He will.
Are you all listening?
No, nobody's logged in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we just
Oh.
need to set a meeting date.
I would just ask, the email that I forwarded yesterday, I don't know if anybody wants to respond to the homeowner on Highland Avenue that had the questions, but
Okay, so this was email question.
Yeah.
The two, were there that came?
one came in support of the rate increases. And then
It's not a
there's,
rate increase. it's
I'm
a-
sorry,
it's a
the
rate adjustment.
rate adjustment. You are correct. And then the one asking questions.
So
about
there
usage
was a
on-
question from a woman wondering about how much water use is consumed by condo associations. So there must be an awful lot, and my question was, how many condos do we really have here besides Katuitt Inn? I can't even. So I'm
See how
not
many
sure if she's
condominiums
confusing
there.
us with all the condos in Mashpee, which there are certainly many. But I don't know if I like to respond to emails, but I'm not sure what we could say of substance to her.
Should I just respond and ask her to give me a call to discuss her
Yeah, that'd be-
concerns? Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. And frankly, I don't know if that one condo association we have doesn't really have much to pay of law.
No.
So it's
no,
just
they don't
people
have-
living in their condos using water.
Right, exactly.
Oh, they're using a lot of water. Well, guess what? Every other family is using a lot of water too.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure that we should discriminate against living in a condo versus people living in a home. Frankly, the lack of, yard area there, I don't know what's in back there anymore, but it used to be just parking, isn't it?
and there's two more buildings. There's
More buildings.
There's a duplex and a single home behind the park in there.
Okay.
If you go to the post office, you can see the duplex, it's behind the fence.
When it was Hacks Bar, they used a lot more water, but
It wasn't water.
Only
they
to
were
make
using-
ice. Only to make ice.
That was when he ran out of ice.
Is that right?
Yeah, when he was out of ice, that was it.
Really?
some of us are just old enough to remember that. Okay, so we'll set a date, that would be in November, typically a Wednesday.
Third Wednesday, is that our target?
Yeah, that
Is
would be
that
the
Thanksgiving
15th.
week?
Is
No.
15th.
Would
Would
be
be
the
the way
week
to
before.
go.
15th would be good.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Would you decide, are you taking that week or no?
Chris, are you available?
I think it's the other week before that I was gonna take.
The week of the 6th to the 10th?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think the 10th is actually Veterans Day.
correct.
Off, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will meet, as a commission here in this building, and using remote, on Wednesday, November 15th at 5:45. Any other, on election day is November 7th. So. Any other business before we close the meeting at 6:25? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
A second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 6:25. Thanks very much.